Hello, Internet. My name is John Kulas. I'm a 20-year professor of industrial and organizational psychology, 10-year user of R for statistical, traditional, kind of boring applications. And for the last 7 or 8 years, I've been using R to author things. Things like presentations and technical reports and feedback reports. And so every week I get together with some compadres here and we make ourselves available to anyone else that's out there that's interested in learning how to do this, or maybe you're already doing it but just want someone to bounce ideas off of. We're here every Tuesday from 7 to 8. Me and my dwindling cohort of collaborators. I'm going to have to twist some arms here, I think, in a few weeks, which I can do. I'm an arm twister. I'm a pretty good arm twister. Because what we would like to do is to work with other people in terms of what they're trying to do and try to help them out. Um, it's kind of we can't just sit here for an hour and wait. So instead, what we've been doing is we've been covering a feature each week, and so just kind of something focused and specific that you can do using a platform like R to make products. And actually, my kind of orientation on R has really evolved over the course of even just doing this weekly thing. I present R to people not as a replacement for your preferred statistical platform because that scares away. So I'm a psychologist, and that scares away so many psychology students. It's like a hard SPSS for us. Rather than presenting it as a replacement for your standard traditional software platform that does analytical stuff, statistical procedures, I've been framing it as a all-encompassing project software platform. So that accommodates the writing aspect of it that we've been focusing on. So anyway, so every week we cover a different feature. This week we will take a look at how to get emojis and icons into your document, whether that be a slide presentation or an HTML report or a PDF report. These seem to work consistently across different platforms. We'll see how the renderings might differ based on the browser that someone's using to access if it is an HTML product. But because we do that sort of exploration kind of on the fly without a lot of homework done prior to it, uh, sometimes it's not the the best in terms of presentation for someone to learn. So every week we do go ahead and recap what we did the previous week and try to present it in a format that's more conducive to learning. So I think we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Where's our Bullwinkle transition?
Well, there was dirty work at the crossroads last time as Boris and Natasha tried to blow up our heroes. Unfortunately for them, they were caught by a runaway car and wound up blowing themselves up instead. Of course, our boys still aren't out of the woods. Cactus.
Rock, I can't go on.
Bullwinkle, speak to me, speak to me. Why won't you speak to me?
I can't think of a thing to say.
Gee, I gotta get him out of this sun.
And the plucky squirrel seized his friend by the ankles and began to drag him bodily across the desert floor.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. If it's all the same to you, Rock, I'll walk.
But Bullwinkle, you're too weak to walk.
Yeah, but I'd rather die of the staggers than get needled to death.
Good show, Bullwinkle.
And our friends pushed onward while the blazing sun beat down with furnace heat.
Well, we've had hot sun with burning heat here in Minnesota the last 2 days. So I saw motorcycles on the road today, and I almost didn't need a coat. So when it gets to 50 in Minnesota, people treat it like it's 80. You'll see shorts, you'll see people outside without coats, especially the first time we get it. So last week was a lot of fun, and I ended up incorporating what we learned last week into my slide presentations that I use for my students currently. I'm doing a small class at a local university here. Um, and so I decided to go ahead and embed the quizzing capabilities from the extension package that we checked out last week. And if you follow the link that I put in the comments in the chat, there's a hyperlink on this image here, and that'll take you to the actual package that we used, and with it has some instructions for uh, how to install it. And of course, last week we went through that installation as well. You can look at last week's live stream and walk that through again. I don't think I'm gonna. I've been cutting up some of these live streams, but they don't. No one really seems to take to those cut up videos. So it takes a lot of time and effort for me to edit those. So I'm not sure if I'm going to be slicing up anything in the foreseeable future. I would like to slice up the kind of how to begin, how to get started with this series that we did over the course of 3 weeks, because I think that might help some people out. But the extension itself, we walked through last week how to install that, and we did install it. I didn't have it. The what you're looking at here in terms of the capture is the interface for the quiz questions. Now I've already tweaked this a little bit for my class. I've changed the coloring of some of these options here, the check, reset, previous, and some other options on here. I went ahead and changed. I don't know why that's showing. I'm not downloading anything. Um, and so you can change some of these formats pretty easy. There's a CSS file that comes with the extension, and it has some of these decisions such as what color are the buttons, what's the feedback that you get if you get a correct response or an incorrect. The structuring in terms of the code of the questions themselves is really straightforward. So you use this bracketed span that's on line 6 here to indicate the correct answer. You can also use bracketed spans to give targeted feedback for these what are called distractors, incorrect multiple choice responses. By tradition, we call those distractors. And then the question itself is given by again the curly bracket specification that is used by Quarto to do styling requests at, in this particular case, at the slide level. So this slide specification, the two headings, the two hashtags, because of the dot quiz question statement after that, this is going to be rendered as a quiz slide, and the quiz slides literally have the format of what you're seeing right here. And so the quiz slides is really easy, or to get a quiz slide is really easy. It's really straightforward. Some of the look and appearance decisions that you might want to make on how your quiz questions actually render, what they look like, can be done in the YAML of your Reveal.js slide document itself. There is on lines 5 through 15 here. I have highlighted. I think these are exhaustive to the YAML commands that the quiz extension authors are providing to people to have on a global level. Now, many of these you can also override, and we could instead of having correct and incorrect answers as literally correct exclamation point and incorrect, um, you can have that for the majority of your quiz questions, but if you want to override that at any one quiz level, you can certainly do that by using that bracketed span specification once again. Now, I got a couple of things highlighted here because one of the aspects of this package that I did not fully appreciate and still don't fully appreciate is this shuffling feature. So shuffling will randomize the order of your quiz questions. Generally speaking, that's probably something that is a good feature to have. I was looking in the background scripting of the package, and that is not an easy thing to fully turn off. Now, what I don't like is that the way I have these structured is they're at the very end of a normal class lecture slide deck. So they're in a location that I want them to be. So I do not want my slide deck to be shuffled because the order of sequencing of the material is paralleling the order of sequencing that the students are encountering this information in the textbook. So the shuffle key does not just shuffle quiz slides, it will shuffle all your slides. And so for me, that doesn't work. And not being able to shut that feature off, what I've done instead is I've actually changed the shortcut key. So the shortcut key, I move to a different location on the keyboard. I think I have it as P currently. Now the reason I don't like it as T is right next to F on your standard QWERTY keyboard, and T doesn't really do anything to these slide decks. But if you hit F on the slide presentation, you're going to see that brings you full screen on your browser window. And so I use F all the time when I'm interacting with these Reveal.js slides, and having T so dangerously close, it doesn't work for me. So you can at least move the location of it. So I've been moving that. The include score is going to give the test takers, the quiz takers, some feedback on the bottom. And there's some kind of impressive logic in it. So it will identify the number of slides that are quiz slides, and it'll use that as a denominator, and it'll present that to your audience in terms of what they see. Everybody can progress along the quiz themselves and get their own customized feedback. The include score does interfere with some of the other functionality of this, however. So the reset button in particular, it doesn't work the same if you do have that score calculated. I like it, so I have the score calculated. It's pretty neat. And then the way to actually implement this once again is you need to download the extension. You don't need to, but it's going to be easiest if you go ahead and download the extension itself, which will give you an underscore extensions folder. And the best way to use these extensions is to do it within a project folder. So if you're going to offer quizzes in your slides, you're going to want to make sure that your slides are presented within a project folder, and you script them within a project folder. The one thing that I've noticed, so since I've started to organize all of my products within project folders, I'm sorry. The only real negative that I've encountered with doing that is in publishing. So I've been publishing these to a Posit hosting site, and just by default, the publishing process is really, really easy. It's a single button procedure, but by default, it's grabbing everything in my underscore extensions folder along with the content that I want to publish, and it's probably doing that as a safety mechanism, such that whatever's being rendered locally is going to be most likely to be well represented on the hosted site as well. But I started to feel guilty once I just noticed it this past week, and I'm like, oh, like these guys are so great about just making resources available for people like me to put stuff out there and to see if we can maybe help people who are interested in authoring in this manner. But I'm just putting all kinds of goop on their servers, and it's not necessary. So I've caught it now, but just by default with those extensions in the underscore extensions folder within your project folder, that if depending on how you choose to share this, just be aware that it might grab that information just by default. You can override that, but again, I just noticed it, so I feel kind of guilty about how I've been using up their server space. But going forward, it'll certainly be a lot more efficient in terms of my stuff that's up there. So today, look at that big emoji. Look at that big, happy, shiny, sunshiny, sunglass wearing guy. I think there's a guy. Are these gendered? I guess I don't know. I think there's male and female emojis. I don't know what this one is, if he's male or female. This one looks male for some reason to me. I guess I don't know if he is. Um, but we're going to talk about embedding these types of visuals into your product. Now, there's two of them that I kind of have here. I've gone through phases of really utilizing, probably overutilizing these, and then scaling back. They do. I like them in these reveal presentations in particular, and sometimes what you're looking at is a little hidden. You might not even realize it's an emoji. This little double-headed arrow guy that I'm using, that's an emoji. Uh, so, I mean, who knew? Certainly, what you're seeing here, these are what you're more kind of used to seeing when it comes to emojis. And then icons as well. Icons, I haven't typically progress to the very last slide in this slide deck because it's got scary stuff. But this scary stuff is helpful in case there's a problem in your rendering to kind of problem solve it. There's an icon that I use here, and that icon is this representation of R. So you can see that it actually looks like the program R symbol, and the coloring's a little different. Now I can't color. Maybe we could spend some time on that, trying to figure out how to get a little more control over what is colored. Because the actual R symbol, I think it's two or three colors. There's some gray, silver, pewtery thing in there, and then there's this color of blue as well. I think that's the actual color used. Um, I'm not 100% on that. But we'll talk about how to incorporate icons as well. So emojis are fun. Icons are sometimes a little more technical. So icons might represent a company, it might represent a product, um, and we'll go ahead and take a look at how we do all that. Now, I just said use a project folder for things that you do, but I have such a proliferation of these temporary, I'm not going to save them. I'm just using this for demonstrative purposes, projects and products that I really don't want to create a project folder. So I am just going to exit the live stream project folder that has so much stuff in it. It's just crowded. I'm gonna figure out if I want to keep using that folder or if I want to maybe make different ones for different years. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do on that. This is just R now. I'm not in a project. I am gonna open up, well, let's go ahead and let's start with we've been doing slide presentations. Let's just do an HTML file. So I'm gonna do a Quarto document. Let me blow this up a little. Well, new file, Quarto document, and I'm going to use the default HTML. Again, we could choose our presentation here if we want. We could do a Shiny app here if we want, or you can just populate the YAML of a pretty much empty file and make those things later as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create an empty document. Here's my very small YAML. It just says there's an HTML file that's going to be produced. Um, we don't really need a title, but we can call it emojis and icons. And I already violated my general recommendation, which is before you tweak anything, go ahead and make sure that it renders or it knits. I'm going to save this on my desktop. I'm going to save it as Casey. That's kind of been it's been a file that I've just been playing around with. Casey was the first collaborator to show up on these live streams and work with me. So there's my title. We could add an author field, other things in there if we wanted to. We don't need to at this point. What I would like to do is I would like to add an emoji. So the first the first option, and we'll see how much time we have because there's again, there's many options to doing this, but the first option is the one that I use. So it's the first option I'm going to recommend. And that is Hadley Wickham has a package that facilitates the use of emojis in these sorts of documents. So I'm going to do a search for Hadley emo, and it's on GitHub. This is a package that is not on CRAN, or it wasn't when I started using it, I think. So let's see. I'm going to do a search for CRAN, which is the repository, online repository for packages that have been kind of vetted by the user community. There it is, Comprehensive Archive Network. And there's a packages option here. I thought we could search, but maybe not. Let's actually look sorted by name. I'm going to look for emo. And on the very left here, there's a bunch of hyperlinked names of packages. And I'm looking for EMO. This is alphabetical, so got to do the alphabet song in my head as I'm looking through. And again, this is one of the only places that I get annoyed that R is case sensitive. Not all programming languages are R, ARER, but and it's usually it's fine typically, but when you're looking through a list like this, it gets a little annoying. So no, it's not. There is an emoji package that is on CRAN, and maybe we'll check that out after we look at the Hadley one. But we're going to go ahead and use the Hadley one. So there's a installation manual here. The way that you install it on your local computer, and I'll put this in the comments as well, is to DevTools is a package. So if you don't have DevTools, you first need to install DevTools. So I would, and I keep using RStudio, and I think I'll probably be using it for a while. But I've been using the packages tab in RStudio quite often. So you just go to install, and then you go DevTools, and go ahead and install that. Once DevTools is installed, then we can just copy this command here, which is install underscore GitHub, and then what's the repository name and owner that you're trying to install. And you do this in your console. So we could also run it as part of our script, but we don't need to grab it every time. So if it's not something that I'm going to repeat every time I render a document, if it's something like installing a package, that's fine. So in your console, just go ahead and hit that. Now for me, it's saying you've already got this installed and nothing's changed. So if you wanted to force it, we could, but I don't need to force it. I already have it and it's working just fine. But that installation, it should, if you're in your packages tab now and you do a search for it, even though it doesn't come from CRAN, it comes from GitHub, it should still be a viable package available for you to actually use. And yeah, see, it's easily insert emoji. And so there's a bunch of different ways to actually do this. The command that is from the emo package is just simply JI. And here's a listing of the emojis that you have. Now, what I've found to be a more useful listing of emojis are not these that are on Hadley's site, but they're actually available at a different URL. I'm going to see if it's on here. So I have it bookmarked on my browser too. So so the easiest thing I guess to do is to open up a different tab and then go to my bookmarks. And then I'll go ahead and share that with you. So this is the site that I tend to go to find my emojis. You can also grab them from Hadley's listing as well. Now, one of the things you'll note on Hadley's listing is that for some of these, there are multiple emojis. So just the actual number 30, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different emojis that might come up on your browser. And some of these have quite a few. And so the first one typically is the one that's rendered in the browser, but not always. So maybe let's try affection since it comes up with so many of these. Now you're also going to see that if you look on this listing. So on this listing, there's multiple key phrases that call up this particular icon, and that's just a reverse way of saying that there's multiple icons for each phrasing. So it works both ways. But in terms of embedding it, let's see what Hadley recommends here. So Hadley is saying to use it, you can use a unique name or keyword, and so the the keywords aren't unique, and so again, this is some of what we'll see uh, in terms of specification. Now, not every emoji has a unique name, so the name and the keyword um, are going to look the same to us in terms of choosing one of these. But let's go ahead and just use the structure that he's recommending, which is emoji. Now these are our commands, so we're gonna have to do this in a chunk, or we can do it in an inline code as well. I'm not sure what happens if we put it in the console. Let's see. Oh, it comes up. Okay, I guess that makes a lot of sense. So and here you're seeing some of that different emojis that are all in this particular case. It looks like they're all equally likely with that keyword. Now, if we were to replace face with, what was the one that had a lot here? Affection. I think we saw. Oh, here we go. Yeah, affection. And so again, and Hadley, I think, presents it kind of nicely here. He says what he's presenting are keywords that all have more than one. And then again, the unique ones tend to have a lot of description to them, so we'll see what those look like. Grinning face with big eyes, for example. I would say that's fairly unique. So in addition to running in our console, we can, and you can put this wherever you want, but we can do an inline code. And so inline code is backtick, so up by the escape key. And then I'm gonna say emo :ji, and then in double quotes the emoji that you're interested in, and render that document. My expectation is that same kind of emoji that we saw in our console. I couldn't find it. I didn't like that keyword. Let's try face, because we tried face. The so it comes up with a dragon. The site that I said that I tend to prefer, which I put a link to, the most recent link in the comments, that seems to be pretty reliable in terms of what's actually available. So the names that are on that site should, for the most part, render okay within your documents. I'm going to re-render it and see what that face looks like now. Instead of a dragon, now it's what is that, a questioning face, I guess. Rerun it again. You get the lying Pinocchio something or other mask looking thing. Now, typically you're going to want to be a little more specific and control over what it is that's rendered. So I'm going to go ahead and look at my template site, and I don't know, Max isn't here, but we'll see if there's a popsicle. He likes his lemon popsicle. There's a hippopotamus. Maybe we'll try that. Hippopotamus, popcorn, lollipop. Lollipop's probably close enough. Let's take lollipop. Let's see what that renders like. And the first one is one that's going to give you the highest likelihood of seeing what you want to see. And again, it's funny, the appearance didn't show, but yeah, there's a little lollipop, and that does look actually very much like what the lollipop looks like. Here it's small, so it's difficult to see. But there's all kinds of neat stuff that you can. Sake. Let's try it. Let's see if sake works. I mean, it's a very big list, so you can put these wherever you'd like to put them in your documents. We'll see what sake looks like, and then yeah, it looks exactly like what it rendered. Let's go back to lollipop because I like that, and then we'll see how that. Well, I guess we can have multiple, right? Let's do multiple of these, and then see how it looks in a PDF. You can see how it looks in a slide deck, uh, and I don't know. Any ideas out there for any other icon that you'd like to see? This list is just huge. Oh, is that a koala? I think I just saw a koala. It was kind of cute. Yeah, there's a koala. I don't. It doesn't look much different than a gerbil or hamster or something to me. But let's try a koala. This was put in the header. You don't. You can put it wherever you want. So we can just say, here's a nice koala. And then I'm gonna salvage this inline code. It says R emoji and just swap out lollipop with koala. And then maybe we'll put a nice big picture of a koala on top of that, just to stress that we are looking at koalas. I, that is a fun looking koala. I like this guy. So I'm going to do a right click, copy image address, and let's just put a picture in there. And the markdown way to do pictures in these documents um, is exclamation point, square bracket, and parentheses, and then the location of your image in the parentheses, normal parentheses. So let's see what that looks like. There we go. Quarto. I guess we could call it Quanto or Qantas. Isn't Qantas? Qantas is an Australian airline, right? Let's change this. Qantas, I think. That's what it is. And then we need an airplane, not a lollipop. You never know where these sessions are gonna go. I didn't think we were gonna be talking about anything related to small airplane. Well, there's a lot of airplanes. Anything related to koalas and let's do airplane. So a lot of these emojis have very kind of it's intuitive names to them, um, but like the Hadley help page said, you gotta I guess kind of be aware that it's possible that what you're using is going to be interpreted as a keyword and not the emoji name, and then it's gonna render a little differently. Now, one thing that I haven't tried. If you'll notice, the size of rendering differs based on where we're actually at in the document. So if I were to do, for example, a first level header, hello peeps, and then we put in another, we'll put in the same one just so we can actually see the size difference. So it should scale it to be consistent with the rendering of the text that it is expecting. Um, and yeah, I don't know if that's coming through so well, but it is actually rendering larger because of the text. And now down here, the koala is smaller because it's consistent with the text. So one of the things that we could do, and we'll see if it works. I've never tried this actually, but we should be able to do a little CSS, and let's just say bigger. So I'm gonna make a CSS code chunk, and let's do a search for CSS. I'm gonna ask for text, even though we're not interested in text, I think it will apply. So font size, and again, there's different metrics. M is the one that I'm curious about because EM is a magnifying feature, and so we should be able to set the font size to be larger. And let's see if that actually works and renders our emojis any bigger. Again, this is uh, just I've never tried this, so we'll see if it works. The slash asterisk slash is the note convention for CSS. So it's actually just a note. We don't need it. We should have bigger enabled now, so I'm going to do two koalas. Here's a nice looking koala. And is this one even bigger? Now, if this works, it's not going to work. It shouldn't work in our PDF, but it should work in our HTML files. So I am going to see if we can use the bracketed span formatting and sequencing in order to apply the bigger CSS specification that we just made up, and see if that emoji is actually larger. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's nice to know. That is a good way to play with it. I don't think there's any limit on this. You could make it, I don't know, 5 times as big. There might be value ranges that are valid and not valid. Uh, but yeah, that looks like it's 5 times this, right? So that's kind of neat. Although that looks like a beak. I don't know if those two images look similar. The emoji and the actual. I don't know. I don't know how good a representation of a koala the emoji actually is. So let's see what this looks like in a different format. We'll just do a PDF file and see what that looks like. And we should still get the emojis, but the text specifications aren't gonna. I don't believe are gonna work. CSS shouldn't work here. We haven't done a lot with PDFs, so if you are trying this as you're watching, you may need a little more setup. You may need a little additional setup on your computer in order to get. Oh, I didn't do any of my emojis. That's interesting. They should come through. Um, huh. We'll have to see. There might be a package that we actually need to install. Let me do a quick check here in order for those to be rendered properly on PDF types. Probably shouldn't spend a ton of time on it because I'm probably I don't know that people are all that interested in PDFs. I like them. I think um, I like actually being able to use them for things like, so I'm looking at a syllabus right now to see if I have any sort of, oh yeah, there we go. It wants a different engine. So there's different ways to come up with, there's different ways to generate a PDF. And one of the things that we need to specify here is a different engine to give us our PDF file. I'm guessing this will work. Now it's possible I need one extra. It's possible I need one extra layer of specification. Use package specification, but we'll see. This is going to look a little different because this may be why people don't use PDFs as much. The structure of the scripting is going to be is going to look a little different because historically the tradition we're coming from here is different. This is a LaTeX or LaTeX tradition as opposed to the HTML scripting tradition and authoring system, which is Markdown. So the Quarto is great. They're trying to make everything available in terms of formatting uh, to not just one output type, but to several different output types. Hmm, looks like I might have to play with this a little more in order to get those. I'm really kind of a little bit stumped um, because I know that I've gotten this to work a little easier before, but it looks like I have a function here as well that might be necessary, and I'm just kind of curious myself to see if this function is necessary. So I have a function that I took from University of Washington that might help overcome some of these issues of not rendering where we want it to in the different file types. We'll see if this works, and then that'll be the last of it, I think. Now again, even if we are to get the emojis themselves coming out, um, the thing about the function that I have there is we're gonna need a different emoji callout than what we have here. So it's not as transferable as I was hoping. So if I were to change that, actually just take out the two colons. We'll see what happens. Because in the PDF, what's happening is um, we're not able to access the emojis through the same mechanism. And so actually, I have a description of this as a note. So maybe I'll put that while we're waiting here for this to render. I'll put that in the comments as well. Someone might find that useful if there's anyone out there that wants to do this in a PDF. So that's a link to kind of some of the problem solving that I just did that enabled us to get these icons to actually render in our PDF. So the specification is different. You're seeing that CSS is not going to be effective because the PDF doesn't care about the stylings, the cascading style sheets, the HTML stylings. So we're getting the same size emoji. The emojis look very similar. Um, they look identical, actually. You are seeing the styling mirrored in terms of the headings. So if the heading font is bigger, then the emoji will be bigger in that particular context as well. There's my PDF file with emojis in it. Not not exactly, unfortunately, a one-to-one match in terms of the scripting. Maybe if anyone's interested, drop me a note and I can try to come up with a better method to do that that does transfer more easily across different types of products. Now, the one thing that I guess I can leave that on, we can do a PDF again, but I did also want to show the other type of image that you might want to include in your documents, which is an icon. And so the icon, there's a bunch of different ways to use icons. The one that I'm going to go over here is facilitated through a package called Font Awesome. Now, Font Awesome is actually on CRAN, so you can do a package install and look for Font Awesome, and then go ahead and install that, and it'll be available. Now, Font Awesome, I go there quite a bit, but you can see it looks like I was searching for R or Supa. I think I was looking for the Supa base icon. Now, what they have is they have commercial, product based, and other kind of standard ways of representing things that you see across different platforms. For example, here's a download icon. Uh, there are some fanciness that you can have in terms of colors. This is a commercial site, so that there are icons that you need to pay for. If you look, they have a plans section, and I think that's annual. Yeah, so annual payments of up to $500. Wow. I don't use them that often, but I do use them. So the way to work here is to use their search function, and typically you have something in mind. I don't, maybe Coca-Cola. I don't know. I don't know if it's here. I can just look for cola or soda pop. Colon, it's pulling up colon sign, and again, you can see some of these are going to not be available because there's there's pro versions only. Now, clapperboard, that's kind of cool looking. Let's see if we can get a clapperboard in our, let's do our HTML. Well, we got the PDF going. Let's see if we can get it in the PDF file here. So I am going to use the Font Awesome specification. Let's pull up the Font Awesome package. You know, this autocomplete, I'm not sure I love it that much. So I'm going to pull up the package specification, and it's nice. It's a very there's not a lot here, which is always great. So the simple command is just FA. So FA and then the name of the icon itself. You can fill it. You can determine whether there's any transparency with the fill, and there's other packages that have some HTML kind of animation capabilities to them as well, but this one is kind of the one I keep going back to because it does seem to work very well, and so it's reliable, I guess, is something you can say about it. Pulling up a couple of files here just to make sure, because we're running short on time, that my specification is actually going to work. So we're going to, let's see, we'll just put it, we're going to use that inline code again, and I guess we can try in the console to see if it works. So we're going to call up the Font Awesome package. Font Awesome. I have a little toy in front of my cursor there. So Font Awesome, and then the command was FA that we saw. And then we're just going to, in double quotes, very similar to how we specified emoji, we're going to ask for the icon that we want. Here it's called clapperboard. So these specifications are HTML specifications. I'm not sure that we have any sort of, we're going to have different overrides using this Font Awesome package. Well, let's just see if it pulls up a clapperboard. There it is. So it made it as an SVG, which is a scalable vector graphic, I think is what that stands for. I shouldn't say, I'm talking out of turn here. But so it does work in my console. Let's see if it works in the PDF file itself. So backtick R, and then Font Awesome, double colon FA, double quotes, clapperboard. Hopefully it works a little easier in the PDF and we don't have to have as much problem solving. I'm not sure the last time I tried to do an icon in a PDF output file. So we'll see. If this doesn't work, we'll just go to the HTML because I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. But it did work, so that works great. So I do actually have the rendering of my clapperboard here. Now, one thing I guess we could do, just quick, because it's a very easy kind of addition to make. I got so many windows open. We can do fill. So fill should take hexadecimal values. So if we do fill equals, and then in double quotes, we should be able to put in whatever hex we want. So I'm going to go to a hex picker, and so a hex again stands for hexadecimal. And so yeah, I was just using this today on a different project. So I had this kind of cornflower blue. It's a 4287F5 is the specifications. I should be able to put that in. Now my expectation is this clapperboard that we see that came up nicely should now be blue. Cornflower blue, I guess. The other thing about PDFs is it does tend to take a little longer to converge on the product itself. There's more kind of background work that seems to need to be done. Um, but that would be really neat if we were able to just override the coloring that easy, and especially have something that works and it's a um, easy transition between PDF and HTML outputs. So there it is. That's very very user friendly. Let's go back to the HTML files just quickly here. So I'm gonna use the HTML specifications. I don't need some of these chunks anymore. I don't need the all of this stuff is gonna kind of give me problems if because those are PDF specifications, not HTML specifications. So let's go ahead and render, and I just left the clapperboard in there. Uh, we'll see what that looks like. There's our airplane. Now again, the CSS is being applied, and there's our clapperboard. It looks exactly the same as it looked within the PDF file. Now we have this bigger specification that should also work with the clapperboard. I used a bracketed span here. You can also do those fenced divs, and that's usually applied to more than this. And it starts and closes with those 3 consecutive colons. And I'm just applying the styling that we created here. We just said give it 5 times what you normally would when you encounter something like that. And so the clapperboard itself should be bigger. There it is. Pretty easy, I think. Let's pull a different, if I can find font awesome again. Let's pull a couple different icons. They are the R symbol is in here. I wonder R Studio. I think at one point was this one. I want to get the robot astromech. I love it, but it looks like a little R2D2. But I gotta pay for that. Route. That's kind of cool. I mean, look at there's some neat looking things on here that you could actually do. So we'll just make this bigger as well so it's easier to see. We'll do route. And I'll take the fill off of this just so you can see the default. Default should just be black or dark gray. In those things, they it looks great. If we wanted to change the color, we could. Where's my hex picker? Let's make it like hot pink, I guess. That looks hot pinkish. Or there's another word, fuchsia. Kind of fuchsia-ish. Not future-ish, but fuchsia-ish. There we go. You can put them side by side and turn. I mean, you can organize these however you want. Let's just do one more icon, and then we can call it a night. I'm hungry, so I'm actually gonna go get something. I've been bad about. I have a friend that was visiting, and we kept didn't have the healthiest visit, I will say. But it was fun. I'm glad he came, and I'm glad we got to do all kinds of fun stuff. Should we do a rocket? What should we do? I want to do a company. I would mention that you can get companies on here. Now I can't find companies. Uh, I'm not seeing the companies that I'm actually looking for. I guess Apple. There's Apple brand, so we could certainly put that on there. See how that looks. And maybe we'll give that a color and then we'll just call it a night. Apple, again, first render it, just the default, see what it looks like. And then I don't know, I don't use Apple products, so I don't, do they have a color? I guess I'm not even sure. But look at how easy that comes up and how nice it comes up. And again, it renders equally nice within a PDF with no further specification. The emoji, using the Headley package, we did have to sidestep that with the PDF. But with the font awesome, we don't, which is awesome. So it's, I don't know if it's font awesome, but it's awesome. Let's do, I don't know. Oh, that was kind of a different color. I don't even know what that is. Like sand? I don't know. Sandish, I think. And there's other things you could add to these icons too. You know, more than just the color. There's other specifications that the Font Awesome package authors have provided. This is just one of the alterations that is pretty straightforward in terms of tweaking those. So you could also add the stroke is kind of the, I think that's kind of the weight of the lines that you see. Margins you can play with too, and that probably is going to impact size as well. So fill opacity is one that I've never tried, but that should be like alpha within it should be like alpha within a ggplot object. Now on this, it's actually, I'm not going to play with it because on this there's just a white background. It's not going to, we shouldn't be able to even see anything anyway. So there's not a whole point, not a lot of whole point to do this, but I guess we can try it and just see what happens. Fill opacity, there we go. And we don't want null, comma, we want, said it's taking a value, so let's just try a value of 0.1. It might need to be in double quotes, I don't know, but it should throw an error if it doesn't work. So oh, so it does actually, even though our background is white, it is obviously making it transparent-ish, so the opacity does work fine. So that's 0 to 1. So I did a 0.1 first time, I did a 0.5, I'll do a 0.7, and we're progressively getting closer and closer to just a solid colored object. So if we go up to 1, that's what we originally saw. Now one of the things you'll see is the hex color that you've picked is going to be impacted, the perception of that color is going to be impacted by the opacity too. So this looks a lot darker, fully opaque. If I render it as a 0.3, it's not only going to be more see-throughable, but it's going to have the appearance of being lighter as well. Okay, cool. I don't know. That's fun. I like playing with emojis and icons. Hopefully somebody gets something out of this and you enjoy working with those as well. All right. See you next week.